Hello, fifth graders, and happy Monday. Today we're going to talk about unit rate, which is one of the most important concepts you'll learn in sixth grade. I know you're going to do a great job on this lesson, and so does Mr. Smiles. Let's dive right in. Let's start with our do now. 3 and 2 tenths times 8 tenths. First, what's the most important thing to do when I'm multiplying decimals? Remember, when I multiply decimals, I don't need to line them up like when I'm adding or subtracting. I need to count how many digits are going to be behind the decimal. How many digits are going to be behind the decimal? Well, 1. 2 digits are going to be behind the decimal. So I know I can now multiply 32 times 8 like normal. What's 32 times 8 with no decimal? Well, 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 3 is 24, plus one more is 25. Now I need to put two numbers behind the decimal. So where will the decimal point go? The decimal point is between the 2 and the 5. 2 and 56 hundredths. Tenths times tenths makes hundredths. We talked about ratios last week. What is the ratio of monkeys to bananas? Remember, I need to count the monkeys and count the bananas. The ratio is 4 to 5. Now let's multiply fractions. Remember, when I multiply fractions, I can multiply straight across. What's 2/5 times 3/7? Well, what's 2 times 3? It's 6. What's 5 times 7? It's 35. So the answer is 6/35. 1/4 divided by 3. Draw a model. Well, what's the dividend in this problem? 1/4 is the dividend. So what am I going to start my model with? I'm going to start my model with 1/4. Now I need to split it into 3 pieces and keep one piece. So what's my new fraction? What's 1/4 divided by 3? It's 1/12. Now let's do number 5. 3 divided by 1/4. What's the dividend here? It's 3. So what am I going to start my model with? 3 wholes. How many pieces do I need to split each whole up into? I need to split each whole into 4 pieces because 4 is the denominator. Then I can count the pieces. What's 3 divided by 1/4? It's 12. There are 12 fourths inside of 3. Now let's do another. 385 divided by 7. I know that I need to take my dividend, 385, put it inside the house, and my divisor, 7, and put it outside. Let's start by seeing where we can start dividing. Can I start with 3 hundreds, 38 tens, or 385 ones? I can start with 38 tens. How many times does 7 go into 38? 7 goes into 38 5 times. What's 5 times 7? It's 35. Now I can subtract. What's 38 minus 35? It's 3. And I can bring down my 5. How many times does 7 go into 35? 7 goes into 35 5 times. 5 times 7 is 35. When I subtract, I have none left over. So the answer is 55. Now let's practice our multiplication tables. Go ahead and list the multiples of 2 on your paper, then type them into the computer. Now go ahead and list the multiples of 3. Write them on your paper, then type them into the computer. Check your work with mine. Now go ahead and list the multiples of 4. Write them on your paper, then list them on the computer. Check your work with mine. Now go ahead and list the multiples of 5. Write them on your paper, then list them on your computer. Check your work with mine. Now go ahead and list the multiples of 6. Write them on your paper, then list them in your computer. Check your work with mine. Now list the multiples of 7. Go ahead and write them on your paper, then list them in your computer. Check your work with mine. Now list the multiples of 8. Write them on your paper, then type them in the computer. Check your work with mine. Now list the multiples of 9. Write your answers on your paper, then type them in the computer. Check your work with mine. Now let's dive into today's lesson. Today we're talking about unit rate. Let's look at an example to see what we're talking about. A printer can print 40 pages in 5 minutes. How many pages can it print per minute? Underline the word per on your paper. Underline means in one or for every one. So we want to find how many pages the printer can print in 1 minute. You can see I've started a table for you. We already know that the printer can print 40 pages in 5 minutes. We need to find how many pages the printer can print in 1 minute. How do I get from 5 to 1? I divide by 5. We talked last week about how we can create equivalent ratios by multiplying or dividing by the same number for both quantities. So let's do it. We need to divide 40 divided by 5 as well to keep the ratio equivalent. What's 40 divided by 5? It's 8. So the printer can print 8 pages per minute, or 8 pages every 1 minute. Let's talk about our key points for today. The unit rate is the amount per one. To find the unit rate, we divide. We're going to do 5 examples before you move to IXL. Jessica bakes 112 muffins in 7 equal batches. How many muffins are there per batch? Well, I know that I need to divide to find the unit rate. Per batch tells me per one. So I'm going to divide 112 divided by 7. Where can I start my division? I can start my division at 11 tenths. Now let's do it. How many times does 7 go into 11? It goes in 1 time. What's 1 times 7? It's 7. Now I can subtract. 11 minus 7 is 4 and bring down the 2. How many times does 7 go into 42? It goes in 6 times. What's 6 times 7? It's 42. So when I subtract, I have no remainder. Let's try number 2. Simon neatly arranged 135 radio-controlled cars in 5 equal rows on the shelf. How many cars were there per row? Again, I need to divide to find the unit rate. 135 cars divided into 5 equal rows. Go ahead and solve that division problem now. The correct answer is 27 cars per row. Now let's try number 3. Diana purchased 6 dolls that each cost the same amount for her niece. She spent $84. What was the cost per doll? Again, I need to divide here. 85 divided by 6. 84 divided by 6. Go ahead and solve that division problem now. The correct answer is 14. Each doll costs $14. Now we have 2 more examples to try before we get started on IXL practice. Alex drove 256 miles in 4 hours. What was his speed in miles per hour? Go ahead and solve that problem now. The correct answer is 64 miles per hour. Now let's try number 5. The school went on a field trip and used 8 buses. An equal number of students rode on each bus. If 336 students went on the trip, how many students were there per bus? Go ahead and solve that problem now. The correct answer is 42 students per bus. You've done a great job on this video. Now it's time to go to IXL Practice Q.6. Practice finding the unit rate. Try to be the first to get your SMART score above 80. I know you can do it. Mr. Smiles still knows you can do it. Have a great rest of your day, fifth graders.